This episode is brought to you by Honda. When you test drive the new Prologue EV, there's a lot that could impress you about it. There's the class-leading passenger space, the clean, thoughtful design, and the intuitive technology. But out of everything, what you'll really love most is that it's a Honda. Visit honda.com/EV to see offers.
Ampire.
Hey babies, hey babies, hey babies. Hi everyone, hi everyone, hi everyone, hi everyone.
Whoa, what is that? That's a weird hand motion there, buddy.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just doing crazy things today. I'm over this is our last long trip for a while, so I feel like I've made it to. I made a benchmark of the season. 3 of the first 4 on the road. Weird week at Cincinnati, short week Arizona back. And we're good. So this is I'm feeling good. Everybody's feeling good. Everybody's pumped up. Everybody's psyched. I'm into what's going on so far. Best month ever, guys. Best month ever. It's been great.
The only comparison I could make to this was 2009. Was that year 1 of Zorn? 2008, 2009, something like that. They were 6-2.
6-2.
And I think it was the last time we got you saw jerseys out in the wild, on a Monday after they won. I think that was the last time people were this pumped, because I had to do a little walk down memory lane yesterday on my show. The RG3 year was fun, but remember, they were 3-6.
Yeah.
They didn't start off great. Then they won 5 or 6 in a row.
They won the opener, and everybody went nuts because they won the opener.
Yes.
And in New Orleans, and he was awesome.
Right.
So it was
sure.
Best start ever. Right?
Yeah. But that season, they didn't go 3-1, guys.
Right.
They didn't look like this. So I think with the 6-2 comparison is what I landed on yesterday, of people going crazy for the team.
Well, I think also everyone's just looking at the whole situation and going, I don't know who's going to ruin it. That's the best part of it. Who's going to step on this? Who's going to make this bad? And we don't have any culprits. There's no suspicious culprits who might step on it and make it terrible. That's the really good part about the whole thing, right? You're not looking around going, oh, I don't trust that guy. This isn't going to go well.
This would have been great 5 years ago. We could have done Washington football Clue.
Yeah.
It would have been Dan Snyder, would have been Vinny, would have been RG2, Bruce Allen.
Right.
Who else? What other? LeVar? We throwing LeVar in there?
Yeah. Could be anybody.
Right. That's right.
It's a game of Clue. You don't know who it is. You don't know what room it's going to be, and you don't know with what weapon, but it's going to happen. I don't know when it's going to happen, but it's going to happen.
Bruce Allen with the empty core stand.
I look around and I go, oh, look, we might win a lot. Look at this. This is fun. NFL world loves Jayden Daniels. We're already going to the hyperbolic of which NFC quarterback would you want over him 4 weeks into his career. I'm not saying that. It's the national media has gone gaga for him. And I'm pretty convinced that we're going to get flexed into things pretty soon here. I think the NFL is going to try to take advantage of how hot he is and how the interest level is in him. There's nothing like a star quarterback. So I have a feeling our schedule is going to get flipped around pretty soon here. Probably that Ravens game. I can't imagine it doesn't. Probably that Ravens game. And then we'll see what this weekend is. For a long time, I'm always wondered, what's the crowd going to be at home? You never really totally know. And I just don't expect it to be overrun with Browns fans this week. That's for sure. So I think we're going to have a really, really fun crowd this weekend too, because everybody's just kind of all in. Let's go. And I don't know. The numbers are so preposterous, that they've put up, that there's just historically, there's no chance that it continues. But who knows? Who knows? Later, you'll hear from Logan Paulsen, who I did the Booth Review podcast with. And we talked, the segment you'll hear is just all about Jayden, because we're both kind of is this real? Because this is the numbers he's posting are unprecedented and historic. So you need to keep that in mind. There's just no way that this can continue on like this. But I'll ride it for as long as it lasts. And it's a heck of a start. and the Eagles look weird and the Cowboys look weird, and the Cowboys schedule's hard now. It's very hard over the next like 5-6 weeks. So I'm saying there's a chance, that like this could be like year one Ron where everyone else kind of opens the door for you, and we'll see if we walk through it. So I don't know.
Two things to respond to you on that. The Sunday night rules literally kick in this week. So they're obviously not going to kick Sunday night this week. It's too late, right? But next week with that Ravens game, the game on the schedule is Giants and Bengals. Right. Bengals at New York. Yeah. I mean, if I'm the NFL, that's a no-brainer. Bengals are kind of finished. Like, they might come back, but right now, nobody really wants to watch them. The Giants can't score a touchdown. I know that it's a New York team, but they also have another Sunday nighter like 4 or 5 weeks from now. Yeah. It just seems like a no-brainer on that front. How you can't do Jayden Daniels and Lamar Jackson staring at you in the schedule. And I said this to you on my show yesterday, that travel inconvenience is nobody. They just push that back. Like that's actually the least resistant in terms of like moving the time than any other game possible for both of those teams. And the other one on this was too, Stephen A took the bait yesterday. They didn't say what quarterback would you take over Jayden Daniels. They said, would you take Jayden Daniels over any quarterback in the NFC? Why would I take him? Why wouldn't I take him over everyone else?
Well, I said, what did I say? Like back in the spring, I go, the best case scenario for me is in a year from now, we say he's the best quarterback in the division because, Dak's getting paid an extraordinary amount of money. I think he's a very good. I think he's hyper criticized. I think he's better than people like kind of give him credit for, but he hasn't won the big games yet. And there are up and down moments with him. Hurts seems to be going in the wrong direction. Like it really seems to be going in the wrong direction. I think it goes back to he injured his knee last year and he doesn't run the way he used to. And only he and the team could answer whether that's because of physical injury or because they've decided they just don't want him to put himself at risk as much as he used to. But I don't think he runs his magic trick was that zone read situation. Like that was his magic trick. So like, I don't know, like if he's going to ascend back up to where he was a few years ago, where his numbers were off the charts, but it doesn't seem like it's going in that direction. And I think we've all made our determinations about Dimes. So we're not far off of this because it's not like Dak or Jalen are going anywhere. And I like, is it right now? Again, like I think we keep getting a little ahead of ourselves because his numbers are just so unprecedented and off the charts that it's hard to contextualize it. But that's what I said. My hope is we're a year away from we've got the best quarterback in the division. And certainly for the first month we do of this season. But, call me in December after we've played 8-9 more games and let's see where we are.
Yeah. I mean, not only that, call me after they play someone that's a contender, right? Like, I think that's what scares me over the next 2 weeks is like, hopefully they don't overlook Cleveland because Cleveland's bad. They're boring. That's another bad part. And they're coming here at home. You don't want to have a letdown, but everyone's looking forward to that game in 2 weeks just to see how they stack up. And, we'll see how it is. I think Washington fans are taking it as a win-win. We're just going to see what they're actually made out of. If they somehow win it, people are going to lose their freaking minds in a way we haven't seen in a long time. But I just hope they don't have a letdown looking forward to them.
Yeah, I think if they get through this weekend and they win, and I haven't watched a lot of Cleveland. I know what their record is and I know what the storylines are and all that stuff, but I haven't really watched a lot of them yet. I have a feeling I'm going to see the best defense they've faced this year on tape, but I haven't really watched much of it yet, so I'll get to that later in the week. But I do know what their offense is doing. It's not very much. And if they just get through and win, then I think it's it's not a can't lose situation, but at 4-1 in Baltimore, they can afford if it doesn't go the right way, but they're kind of right there toe to toe with them. I think it's going to say a lot. If they pull that off, I agree with you. People are going to lose their, what, like it's good. People are going to go berserk. So, but I'm gonna ride the wave. I mean, this is fun. I mean, I'm not like, oh God, like I think some people are like, I can't believe it. No, I'm trying to enjoy the moment here. I mean, like this is better than I thought it would be. I still see flaws. I hope that they're going to get better on defense. I thought maybe Sunday was a really good sign of things to come because it was really, really bad. It was overlooked by what Jayden was doing, but it was really bad, like bottom 3 bad, like numbers like last year bad. And so I keep feeling like that's going to turn, and maybe it did on Sunday. And if it does, and they have, what I would an average defense by the end of all of it, then who knows? Maybe this is a playoff team this year, one way or the other. Maybe it is. But they're off to as good a start as they could possibly get to. It's just, how are they going to handle this hype? And so far, I mean, every indication has been good about that. It goes back to, there are no culprits in the building. They all seem to be on the same page. They all seem to understand that, like, what's going on here. I love that Quinn immediately is like, don't get on this roller coaster, because he's just been around it too long. I mean, go look at Dallas last year, who won every home game that they played, boat raced most of the teams that they played at home. Their defense was top 5 in literally everything, and they got destroyed at home in the playoffs. So you don't know. Like, what's happening right now is not what's going to be happening in January. So, let's see how it goes. Let's enjoy the ride while we get there.
I think part of this, though, is like, it's double-edged. It's a good double-edged sword. Is people, though, are excited for the first time because there is a player worth watching every single week with this team. I mean, that's really, it has changed people's days now, Bram. Like, it's not, I can casually follow this because Taylor Heineke is starting, and if he wins, it's, golf clap for you, sir. You did a good job. This is like, you have to watch this guy because he's that good, and people are clearing the schedules to watch him now. I think that's why the hype is so real. And I'm with you. I pretty much talked about it in my whole show yesterday, was enjoy this. Like, don't think, I need to wait a little bit longer. No, just sit back and enjoy this, because I think you're going to deny yourself like legitimate joy if you decide that you don't want to enjoy this right now. And with him, I think it's not just about what's happened over these next 4 weeks. As I said, people are going to open their schedules up now. It's because people see what he's doing and they're going, if this is legit, we've got this for 10 years if he stays healthy. And so I think that's the other part of this. It's people are jumping to that because it just has never happened. I mean, look at people my age. We've never had a franchise quarterback. Kirk was the closest thing we had, and it was still, do we sign him or do we not sign him for a couple of years, right? You couldn't even enjoy that when that was happening. So I think that's why, especially people my age and their 30s, are losing their minds too, because we literally have never had this before.
Yeah, I mean, I just, I agree. Let's just enjoy it. Like, and I do think we have a very special player here. The numbers are outrageous, and they can't possibly continue, or he's the greatest quarterback ever. So we just need to slow that part down. But I'm with you. Let's enjoy this. It's been a while. It's been a little surprising. I think that's fun. That's the fun of it too. It's been expected, and so I'm with you. Let's just enjoy this thing, and let's see if we can get through this week, somehow have another win. That Baltimore game is going to be the most fun regular season game we've had in a while here, where all of a sudden we're going, let's see the new kid on the block that's what Lamar's calling him. Like, let's see what it looks like when he goes up against the MVP. But the first things first, let's go week to week here. Cleveland needs to win. That was a playoff team a year ago. They still have a really, really, really good defense. So let's see what happens this weekend. You'll hear more about Jayden with Logan Paulsen in a bit. All right, let's see. I will stick to my guns here. I think Detroit is the Super Bowl team from the NFC this year. They won last night. They beat Seattle in a very high scoring game. Second half was wild. I think it was like 40 points scored, something like that. So defensively, there are some warts on Detroit. This rookie corner has like 58 penalties already this year. So that's a problem. So they have warts like everybody else. But I think offensively, they're just a little too good to fail. And now they're at a point where Goff had a perfect game last night. And, I feel like they're kind of like right there ready to win. That's how I kind of feel about them. They're just kind of right there ready to win. Seattle's a pretty good team. I think they've got very good weapons. And I think Geno, has turned into a very solid quarterback. And their defense is better than it was, but not great. But they're good. And if the Niners and the Rams are going to have injuries all year, then they may be there in the end to win that division. That's a possibility. But Detroit still looks the part to me. And I think they're just kind of right on the cusp and ready. And, nothing about last night changed that for me.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought after last Monday, Jayden's near perfect game was going to be followed up by an actual perfect game by Goff. Nobody could have guessed that one. I still just have my doubts on Goff if they face an elite quarterback. The good part about him, the Lions, is it is the NFC. Who are the elite quarterbacks in the NFC comparatively to the AFC, right? Like, we've talked about it for years, where I said the best thing that the Bengals, Chiefs, and Bills could do is not lose their minds when they lose to one another, because there's 3 elite quarterbacks and they're so close together when it comes to skill that, you shouldn't lose your mind. You're gonna just lose to a better quarterback on a better day sometimes. With Goff and the Lions, who are the better quarterbacks in the NFC than him? I mean, or at least a full tier above him. I don't think that exists at the moment. Like, I think you could have argued Hurts, right? But I don't think Hurts is in that level anymore. I think they're on the same level at this point. Like, so the doubt for me was, can Goff beat a better quarterback? Well, luckily for him, I don't think there really is one in the NFC at the moment, unless you want to count Jayden. I mean,
you know what's crazy about it? I think if Matthew Stafford was in this offense, they would win the same amount and maybe more.
Yeah, I'd agree with you.
Like, honestly, I do. I think like he's got the ability to do the things that most people can't do.
Yeah.
And it's just, he was like right person, wrong time for them. He'd be the right place, right time. He'd be putting up crazy stats in this offense, I think. Yeah. I really think it's the system. I know we like to make fun of Ben Johnson because he doesn't want to talk to any billionaires, but it's the personnel too. I mean, they have just really built a really great roster. I really respect the offensive line that they have. The 2-headed monster running back that they have an explosive guy. They got a guy they can lean on. Their receivers, albeit none of them you'd go, that's a top 5 receiver. All of them seem to know exactly what their roles are. Their tight end's very good. I mean, it's just right there and ready for them. And Goff is steady. So it's just kind of right there and ready for them. And so I feel like it's their year, unless the miracle of all miracles happen, and it'd be the worst case scenario for them. We do have a ridiculously special player that ends up in the playoffs and plays them, and they find out it's just their luck is going to remain bad for the rest of eternity, right? Because that's the scary part for everybody for a month in, is they go, oh crap, he's one of those. Like the guy who's going to win big immediately. And, we could dream, right? Why not? We could dream.
Wow.
Take down the teams that have built their way up to getting to this point, and now they're right there and they're ready to win. And along comes this guy who wipes everybody out. So we'll see.
I mean, how tragic is that if you're a Lions fan? You're finally here, and then you look over and you're like, whoa, wait a minute. What's Washington doing here? And then
been here for a minute.
It's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
They took us out in the 80s. What are we doing here? Like, that's got to be traumatizing for them.
Real quick, before I get to Logan, there were 2 prominent passings in sports, and I want to talk about one of them here, and I'll talk about the other one because I want to spend a couple more minutes on the other one later, which is Pete Rose. But Dikembe Mutombo passed away yesterday, and I don't believe he was 60, right? 58 years old, something like that. He had been ill for a while. I believe it was brain cancer that he passed away from. And he had been diagnosed with that some time ago. He obviously was a tremendous, unique basketball player. The wagging of the finger, I think, goes down as like an all-time gesture in the NBA. That goes down as some of the greatest moments. Obviously, he was just a fantastic performer in college. And I think about someone like him at Georgetown, and I'm like, how anyone scored on them, with him standing there, I don't know, because he's such an unusual player. But then really post his NBA life, he kind of dedicated to helping people, mainly from, his homeland in Africa. And he did a tremendous amount of charitable work, a tremendous amount of advocacy work. And I mean, he could have won like the Nobel Peace Prize for the types of things that he was doing in his post life as a businessman and as an activist. And that's a life fulfilled. And so he was taken way, way, way too soon at his age, because there's nothing worse than listen, I mean, we love and revere these legendary players, and he was one of them. He really stands out. He's memorable if you think about him in his NBA career. But everything he did afterwards is worth so much more, in my point of view, than what he ever did on a basketball court. And it's a big loss to lose someone like that who's dedicating his life to helping people. It's just it's really terrible loss today.
I think we throw around the word icon quite a bit with big stars, but I think he's the one that actually like is deserving of that one. Somebody that had a little WWE in him with the finger wag that was legendary, was literally larger than life, and as you said, like philanthropically, was always doing that kind of work. I was too young to really watch him play, but I remember seeing just about everything he did off the court, and like you said, especially back at his home. Somebody that was a literal icon, I think.
Yeah, he was. He also had one of the strangest voices I've ever heard in my life. He's like one of those, like, I'd like to hear him stand in the booth with me and do the call from a touch to hear how it would sound coming out of his mouth. It's a big loss today. It's a really unfortunate loss to him and his family, and the Georgetown family, obviously, as well, that are all kind of mourning and grieving his loss. That's when they say someone was taken too soon. When you're someone who's doing the things he was doing, he was really taken too soon. All right, let me take a quick break. You'll hear from Logan Paulsen next. Brainwash the show, ESPN 630 Sports Capital.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. You might say all kinds of stuff when things go wrong, but these are the words you really need to remember. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. They've got options to fit your unique insurance needs, meaning you can talk to your agent to choose the coverage you need, have coverage options to protect the things you value most, file a claim right on the State Farm mobile app, and even reach a real person when you need to talk to someone. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Welcome back. As promised, every week after the game, the Commanders produce a video/audio podcast called Booth Review, where I get a chance to kind of just react with the people who are in the booth with me on the call. Unfortunately, London Fletcher, who all of you probably know by now, lost his wife to a battle to an aggressive form of cancer a couple of weeks ago, has not been with us for the last few games. I'm hoping he's going to return pretty soon. But we've had Logan Paulsen in the booth, and he's been just fantastic. And so we've had, we've been watching the last few weeks, obviously, kind of unprecedented play by a rookie quarterback, and unusual play by a team that is this new with this many new pieces. So after the game in Arizona, off of what happened in Cincinnati, because we didn't have a chance to even do a booth review after the Cincinnati game because it was Monday night and we were flying back and it was really late and the team was somewhere else. So we haven't really had a chance to talk about really any of it together post the games until yesterday. And so I had an opportunity to sit down. You could see the booth review on all of the Commanders outlets, their YouTube page, commanders.com, anywhere you get your podcast. It's called the booth review. And for me and Logan, we had to start where everybody is right now, where we like to kind of go in depth and analytical and take a look at all the plays and all the things that really kind of stood out about the game. But it's hard not to just look and marvel at what Jayden Daniels is doing. And so that's where we started this week's show. I've never seen anything like this. It's so ahead. There are really great quarterbacks in the NFL, great quarterbacks that spend years getting to the point to do what he's doing on a weekly basis, and he's doing it out of the gates. And I think that's what's so unusual and hard to believe.
Yeah.
It's just hard to believe, and I think that's why a lot of people are going, is this real? Because it doesn't feel real.
But I think that's the thing. Is it real? Obviously this is real in terms of the performance, but we were talking about this before the show. Is it sustainable? It seems impossible to sustain this level of performance for any player.
He's doing things Tom Brady didn't do, and he won 7 Super Bowls.
That's what I'm saying. So it seems impossible, but even if it normalizes by 10 percentage points, he's still completing 75% of his passes. He's still in the top 10, kind of 10% of quarterbacks in terms of completion percentage. He's still doing special things, even if it regresses by 10 or 15%. So what I'm assuming is that at some point we'll run into a buzzsaw of a defense that'll regress a little bit. But even that level of performance would still be pretty spectacular. So I don't know, man. It's a lot of fun to call the games because everything it feels like I'm playing Madden. You know how in Madden when the difficulties turn down a little bit and you can just do whatever you want. Like, that's what this feels like. And it's got to come back to earth at some point, but man, it's a lot of fun to watch.
Well, and there's so many like different moments where you go, okay, it's great he did this in the first half, but when it's 3rd and 7 at the 27 with the game on the line on Monday Night Football against the Bengals who have to win the game, what's he going to do then? Oh, I don't know. He's going to throw maybe the best pass that this organization has seen in 30 years, right? And he's going to throw it to the guy who needed to make this catch to prove, that he's able to do it. And then he does it again. Yeah. The drive where they sealed it, where he threw the touchdown pass to Terry on this one, they had 3 penalties on that drive, including a 15-yard taunting penalty, which might have been a little much, but whatever. They had to overcome it. Early in the season, what was 2 weeks ago, we're saying, can they overcome their mistakes? They made all those mistakes in the Giants game, and they ended up kicking a bunch of field goals, and they got away with a win. In this one, 2 weeks later, they have a drive with 3 penalties on it, score anyway, have a 3rd and goal to 10, score anyway. Yeah. It's like nothing seems to get in his way yet. It's almost it's too good.
Yeah, and again, that's where you kind of say, and that's where I understand fans' sentiment about, oh, is this real? Is this sustainable? I don't know, but I'm going to enjoy it while it's here. And I think the other thing is his poise. People throw that word around. His composure. It sticks out to you, and I think it's infecting the offense in a very positive way, because there are these moments where 3rd and 10, like I've been with quarterbacks who are excellent, some of the best, of their generation.
You played with Matt Ryan. Who's going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback.
100%. Yeah. And so, but there were moments in 3rd and 10 where you could feel the stress of the offense. And when you're watching this offense, you don't feel the stress. It's like, 3rd and 10? Yeah, we'll figure it out. And they believe in him. He believes in them. Like, everyone is kind of carrying the emotional weight of the moment appropriately, and they execute. And to consistently, as a group, execute like that. And it's not just Terry. It's not just Zach. I mean, OZ has 80 yards receiving in that game, right? Brian Robinson, Jeremy McNichols. Like, the fact that they're able to lose one of the most explosive pieces of their offense and not miss a beat offensively with your 3rd string running back is incredible.
Well, they named him a captain, and I think some of it was he replaced Eckler through this crazy block that kind of went viral in the Cincinnati game that was part of the 3rd and 7 touchdown play. Jayden took a hit because they overloaded and it brought numbers, but McNichols had this great block. Yeah. And then, of course, he had to play. And he comes in. He hadn't scored a touchdown in 3 years. He scores 2 in the game. He has one of the best runs we've had all year. Mm-hmm. When they run on the edge, we saw this with Eckler a week ago. We've seen it with B-Rob. We saw it on the touchdown run with Jayden. They're executing at such an enormous high level. That's the other part that I think is shocking, because McNichols didn't play in this offense before. Right. This is a new offensive coordinator. That's a rookie quarterback. The guard and the center weren't here last year. Luke McCaffrey is a rookie. Zach Ertz, everyone said his career was basically over. He's here, hadn't played here before. There are few carryovers playing on this, and they're going together and they're setting marks that some of the greatest teams in the history of the game have not met. They are scoring more points per drive than the 2013 Broncos, who are the highest scoring team in NFL history. And again, I know it's only a month, but add that all up with what this mixture is. It's why I think I keep coming back to, how can this possibly be real?
Yeah. Yeah, and again, like and only time will tell. I think when we did our interview with Dan afterwards and we were like trying to kind of being like, congratulations, this is incredible, this is historic. He's like, we're not riding that roller coaster. We're taking it one game at a time. And that's the only way you can have, I think, a sustained level of success in the NFL, is if you just approach it like this is like, like there's no past, there's no present, there's just this moment, there's just this game. And so I think if they can maintain that, and I think that's the hard thing with football and with any sport really, is maintaining that consistency of mindset is almost impossible. But if you've got the right people, you've got your Tom Brady's, your Peyton Manning's, your Drew Brees, and through the first 4 weeks, Jayden Daniels is kind of hit the mindset. He's never too high, he's never too low, he's kind of right in the middle. It's perfect. And I think the other thing you were talking about there, with the offensive line and the execution of the offense, one of the things that sticks out to me about this group that is so unusual is that they're not always perfect. It's not always perfect execution. Obviously, sometimes it's perfect. Like, think about, watching the Baltimore Bills game last night, and there's that Derrick Henry run where no one touches him, and it's perfectly blocked, hat on hat. There's been a ton of runs this year, explosive plays where it's not perfect. And in the game, on Jeremy McNichols' run, like, their defensive end plays it really well. He kind of chins Allegretti, who's trying to pull it out the edge. Like, it should be a big pile there, but Jerry McNichols makes a play, right? And then there's ones where Jayden Daniels vacates pockets and makes the offensive line, elevates them, and there's a receiver open down the field, he completes the pass. And so the idea that, like, even though the execution of the offense seems to be very high, there are times where people are just making plays, and the plays are coming from everyone. And I think that's what makes this especially unique, is it's obviously Jayden Daniels carrying a lion's share of that, but for the receivers, for the running backs, for all these different people to elevate in the right moments and score touchdowns is the thing that I think makes it special.
Yeah. I want to say one more thing just about Jayden and try to contextualize what's going on here. So when the draft was coming around, in my opinion, and I would defer to you a million times over, I actually didn't think it was a hard choice between him and Drake May, assuming Caleb Williams was going to go number one, which is what we all kind of assumed. I didn't think so for a couple of reasons. Like the experience that he had, he went from Arizona State to LSU. That's a jump. It's a big jump. No offense to Arizona State and the league that they play in or did play in. But like, it is a massive jump. The SEC might as well be AAA NFL. And he got better. And all you heard about him was the work ethic, all the stuff he's doing. He's getting better. Then he has a season for the ages, right, at LSU, and he throws 6 interceptions. And the only thing you can nitpick about it was he took some cartoonish hits along the way. But everything else was, and then you hear this stuff, and you hear this stuff, and you hear this stuff, and it comes along. And while I'm flying home last night, what occurred to me was this guy's been a professional for a while.
Well,
and that he is now
all college football now, though, too. They're all kind of professionals. They're getting paid. Their endorsements, the whole thing.
Right, but I mean, he's a professional at his core. Yeah, that it's not just that he's a superior athlete, which goes along with this, but that he takes this so seriously that he's a professional. Yeah, he's with his peers now. Like he's actually come into a place where everyone else takes it as seriously as he does. Not that the coaching staff at LSU or Arizona State didn't. But the players around him, if you're at this level and you're a Terry McLaurin or you're a Sam Cosmi or you're a Brian Robinson or Jeremy McNichols, who's bouncing around the league, and the only way he stays alive is by being extremely serious about what he does. Jayden Daniels walks in his peer group. And I think I'm seeing this in real time, that he's belonged here for a while, whether it's Washington or anywhere. I mean the NFL. He's belonged in this league differently than others, and I think it's showing because he clearly has the work ethic, the acumen, and then the gift of the incredible athletic ability to do this at a high level immediately. And I think it's caught because even the coaches, Cliff said it before the Bengals game, he goes, he's executing beyond our expectation. Yeah. And I think what we're seeing here is it wasn't just the work ethic and all this stuff. He's with his peer group now. That's what seems to be obvious to me.
Yeah, it's definitely the professionalism, the preparation, all those types of things. And you mentioned the comparison between him and Drake May. And, it's funny in quarterback evaluation, like when you're trying to project it. You know what I'm saying? Like, obviously, this intangible stuff you just mentioned is huge, but also the physical stuff that maybe at the time, like, is undervalued, like the quick release. You see what that does. I mean, there's probably, I don't know, I think they had 35 throws in the game, 35 passing opportunities in the game. And on 10 of them, the ball is completed because of his ability to release the football so quickly from his hand. Yeah. You talk about his base and the ability to throw off platform and like kind of come to balance quickly with his feet. There's probably another 5-10 throws there, that are off of that kind of ilk. And then there's the elite stuff where he's, reading through and making these excellent progressions, which he didn't show a lot of in college. But the intellectual foundation with the physical skill set, and then the kind of the blossoming of it as the offense has allowed him to blossom, I think is the thing that maybe you're alluding to there that I think is extremely interesting.
The other thing too, and I want to get into a couple plays with you in a minute, but the other thing too that stands out is through all of this, like he's head down, humble. You wouldn't feel it, see it. It did not emanate from him. Yeah. Like last night we're talking to him. He's off of this Monday night game. They never come back. He goes as to practice where he played college football. Yeah. So there's a storyline there. Shows up. We're all asking, what's the encore to that one? He's 21 of 23. It's the greatest singular performance by a rookie quarterback ever. It happens in front of the world. Mm-hmm. Joe Buck and Troy Aikman are calling it. Stephen A's calling him greatest quarterback of all time. That's naturally going. Aaron Rodgers is talking about him. Mm-hmm. It's like naturally going to happen that everyone's going to explain how great he is after 3 games. You don't feel it foot from him.
Yeah.
And he walks out there, and they now have more scoring drives than incompletions.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't know it.
Yeah.
When you talk to me, he's got this head down like, man, I just played my game. We did what we did. We can get better. And next week's important too. And you get that feeling from him. It wasn't just Quinn trying to go, guys, don't tell anybody about this. It's him going, no, I'm of the same mindset. Let me get back in the film room with Cliff and Dan. You'll see, we're going to get better.
Yeah, there was, he's a man of few words in our postgame. He says the right things, but his demeanor, it is inspiring, as a former player, think about all the guys that have been around, good football players, and he's got something to him, like this kind of, this magnetism. And, when the players talk about it, he handles himself in the presser, how he's never too high, he's never too low, he's competitive in the right moments, He's got the kind of that innate leadership quality, that comes with how he plays the game. It's very cool. It's very special, and I just hope that he can continue to maintain that, because I think the one thing I've seen with players that are really talented is that Robert Griffin is a great example. I love playing with Robert. I think he was a great teammate when things were going well, but there was some issues there, and it came from the city. It came from the expectations of him. And so you need to be a special person to handle that.
Yes.
And I think that's something that I keep going back to, is he is going to be tested emotionally in a way that is hard for anyone in this area to fathom.
I think as it worked out, it was better off they flew to Arizona after what happened at Cincinnati, because everybody's so excited, and for good reason. Everyone's really excited. They should be. The other thing, I want to go through a couple plays with you that he had, because every week we're seeing something different. They test him differently. And coming into the Arizona game, and I like Jonathan Gannon. I think maybe they're a touch short on some talent in certain spots. Yep. However, they play very fast, and they use very interesting blitz schemes. Yep. And Dennis Gardeck is outstanding, very wily, sneaky player.
Yeah.
Budda Baker's flashing again this year. Zaven Collins has really come around since they kind of moved his position. Mack Wilson's really fast. And they do these kind of unique, very exotic blitz things. Middle of the game, I turn to you and I go, I don't know how many times I've called that they're rushing 3 or 4. Yeah. They backed off. They backed off. And the only conclusion I could come to was they were scared he was going to run on them, and they were worried that they wouldn't be able to contain him. But maybe, I don't know, why do you think they did what they did? Because everything on film leading up to it, they were not as passive in the previous games as they were in this one.
Yeah, and I definitely think they kind of went from, hey, we're going to bring this simulated 4-man pressure from a 5-down look. We're going to drop the ends out and rush the middle linebacker, to bringing that same pattern, but instead of rushing the middle linebacker, he became a spy, and they did that a bunch. And obviously they did bring pressure. I think there was a play to Terry McLaurin. It was an under route he was number 1 to left side under. They were bringing 6 all out. And again, talk about the poise and talk about the awareness of, getting the football, kind of throwing off your back foot, delivering a strike to Terry on the inside shoulder pad there. That gets defenses out of it. When it shows that, hey, we have answers versus pressure, we don't feel as comfortable doing it. But to your point, I do think that they definitely were not as aggressive. And I will say this too. I think credit goes to Cliff, credit goes to the offense, credit goes to Jayden, in that they were able to stay in 3rd and manageable way more than I was expecting. 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2.
Why? Well, you thought what? They were going to sell out on the run?
No, so I just thought it's tough. It's tough to, because that's what they did against Cincinnati. It's tough to maintain those manageable 3rd downs. It's just kind of like the thing we were talking about earlier. It's is this real? Can you do this consistently? And Jayden's ability to scramble, not for 25 yards, but for 4 yards here, 5 yards here, get us into 3rd and 1, get us into 3rd and 2, is extremely valuable. And if I'm Jonathan Gannon, I can't bring any of my exotic stuff in those down and distances, because it doesn't match up from a coverage standpoint with the run stuff that we can do from the short yardage situation. So I think that's one element. I think the run, Jayden's ability to scramble was huge, because there were some 2nd and longs, 3rd and longs where they didn't do it. They chose not to do it. But I think it was kind of a combination of things. And I think when you look at game flow and game efficiency, is in this game specifically and in Cincinnati, think about this team is very rarely over this 2-game win streak, and even against New York in a 3rd and long situation, because of Jayden Daniels. Even on a bad play, there was a couple where there's pressure, he scrambles out, he gets up in the pocket, and he pitches the ball to Zach Ertz. Yeah. And that seems like a nothing play, but if you take a sack there, that's 3rd and 12, and they are bringing something crazy the next down. You better
Right,
believe
to
it.
force him to throw it underneath. They'll never get the first down. You're punting.
Yeah, they're going to bring some crazy blitz like we talked about, like all those exotic pressures that they showed. But now we're in a 3rd and 3, and we can live here, and you can't do what you want to do. And so I think in terms of one of the metrics that I kind of want to keep an eye on is how readily they can stay in those positive down and distance for the offense, because it's huge. It's huge in terms of down-to-down efficiency. And again, credit goes to Jayden, because there's times where Cliff calls a play and he scrambles for 5. And you're all of a sudden, you're like, that should have been a sack. That should have been an incompletion. That's at worst case 2nd and 10. Instead, we're at 2nd and 4. And we can run, we can play action pass, we can run a keeper, we can run zone read, we can run RPO. It's all on the table there in that down and distance, and you have to respect everything defensively. So you can't be in these unsound 3rd down pressure looks like that they showed.
All right, so that was me and Logan Paulsen on the Booth Review, produced by the Commanders. You can check out the whole show every Monday afternoon into Tuesday morning, post the games at commanders.com. Check it out at the Commanders YouTube page, and, of course, anywhere you get your podcasts. Be right back. Bram, watch the show, ESPN 630 Sports Capital. All right, welcome back. Before we get into the baseball playoffs, I must address the passing of Pete Rose, who died at 83. I didn't catch from what? Did you? Did you catch
I did not.
from what?
I didn't.
I didn't see any cause. He has spent the last 20 to 30 years signing autographs, making a lot of money, and every so often being in the middle of the all-time greatest sports debate of all time. How in the world do you not put in the Hall of Fame, maybe the greatest hitter the game has ever seen, because he happened to bet on games that we know of on his team while he was the manager of the Cincinnati Reds? And I still don't know the answer to that, how you don't put him in the Hall of Fame when he is singularly one of the top 2, 3, maybe 5 greatest hitters that the game has ever had. So maybe they'll do it now that it's posthumously. Maybe they've like drawn a line in the sand with him, but maybe now that there's no real argument because he's no longer with us, maybe they'll change their mind about it.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to turn into something weird, I feel like, too. Like, they might want to put him in that way. Does his family want him in, though, at that point? Like, I wouldn't be shocked if they said, like, no, you don't get to do this. Like, he begged to be in the Hall of Fame, essentially, and you guys denied that. So, I don't know. It kind of depends what I think the family is going to warrant. This has always gone back to the baseball is not the cleanest sport in the world. They had steroid users for years and years and years. We talk about it with Barry Bonds and McGuire and Sosa, and with the gambling stuff with him, they just need to say that this happened with these players because they were that good and they do actually belong on that grand pantheon of great baseball players. You need to just write it somewhere that this is what happened. You need to explain the good and the bad with these players, but every single person that talks about Pete Rose says he was the hardest player, like in terms of hardest playing player, that they had ever seen. And that still holds up today. And as you said, he was always betting on his team to win. I know you can still manipulate rosters if you're not betting on a certain day and you are betting on another. That's a legit argument there, but it's not like he was betting against his team and then,
as far as we know.
As far as we know. Sure.
Yeah,
sure.
As far as we know. I've said this for years. I think Roger Clemens should be in the Hall of Fame. I think Barry Bonds should be in the Hall of Fame. I think Mark McGwire should be in the Hall of Fame. A lot of people were doing steroids back then. If you want to put on, hey, he played during this era, he tested positive. It doesn't change the fact that the guy hit 8 trillion home runs and hit 320. Like his average was that. Like, I don't think it changes all that, or it doesn't change the fact that Roger Clemens pitched for as long as he did and struck out as many people as he did and won as many games as he did and won championships. Like, you gotta I think there's a way to do this, that honors them because they're too good not to be included. And Pete Rose is in that category. Now, finding out later in life, more and more about what he was like as a younger person, it wasn't just the gambling that are warts on his character for sure. But it doesn't, if this is about what did you do on the field, nobody played harder and nobody was more successful and nobody was better at it than him. So that's where he belongs. And maybe they'll now. All right. You and I are going to the O's game tomorrow, hon. So is the Archman. First ever playoff game for my son. So I'm really pumped to do this. 4:30 start time. Perfect. Don't even have to take him out of school. Thank you, Major League Baseball. Appreciate that. Series starts today, though. Orioles and Royals. As of 3 weeks ago, every person who covers the Orioles just wrote, the sky is falling. We think they'll make the playoffs, but they stink. They're the worst. They're going to go out. I hate this. Mike Elias knows how to draft people, but his precious draft picks, he can't get rid of any of them and make the team any better. So now that we're here, what do you think? You think they're going to advance past Kansas City?
Yes, because they get Corbin Burnes today, okay? This is the guy they traded for. If there's one thing that stayed consistent all year, it was that guy.
Yes, he was really good. Yes.
Every fifth day, they could rely on him. I forget what his final record ended up being. It was very good. They'll win today, and then I expect them to win one of the next two. That's pretty much where I've landed on this. I can't give you a prediction beyond that, but I'm going to say Corbin Burnes wins today, puts them in a good position, and then they move on, and then it's O's and Yankees in the playoffs coming up. And all I'm saying is you throw everything out with those two teams playing each other, I think.
Yeah, if we get that, that's going to be fun. That's going to be a hot ticket. O's,
yes.
Yankees, that is a hot ticket.
Yep.
Very angry people. That's going to be a really I don't see a reason why they couldn't win a series like that.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, chaos is pretty much who the Orioles are, right? Yep. So I feel like you hit the reset button, and yes, you throw them against any team, they really should be able to stack up for 2 to 3 wins. So,
who you got in the World Series? I'm gonna go. I'm gonna take Yankees and Dodgers. Who you got?
I'm gonna go Phillies, Yankees, and I think the Phillies finally get it done. I think they've maybe been the most consistent team of the year. You have to remember they made the World Series not winning the division, winning the wild card.
Right.
They finally won the division. It means they were great coast to coast. The other part was look at what happened down the stretch. Like yesterday, the Mets and the Braves had to play a doubleheader to consider who was going to get in. They both got in. That tells you the Braves and the Mets played really well down the stretch, who the Phillies had to play a bunch of times, and they still stayed in the division lead. I just think the Phillies have been knocking on the door 2 years in a row. I think it's probably about time they do it.
The Phillies people too, if you follow them, they're like the Orioles people. They just constantly complain about a really good team. They don't have too many errors, or they don't run the bases well. Like you'll just hear these complaints, and then you look up and their record is what it is. Orioles, let's go, baby. Let's go.
Well, so this is the thing, though, and this is every good team down the stretch. And I think it was, who's our guy? Jason Stark wrote an article, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago on The Athletic, where he was like, he basically almost did like a Drew McGarry opposite. Like, this is why your team should win the World Series. And there were like 8 teams on it because every team has its flaws. And that's why these playoffs are going to be so chaotic, because every team has a bunch of flaws, but every team has a bunch of good players. I think the Phillies just being there, though, that gives them the experience. That's why they're going to make it.
You never know. Texas played Arizona, and neither team were picked before the playoffs started to be there. So you never know. We'll see. All right. We'll talk to y'all tomorrow. Very much the show. ESPN 630 Sports Capital.